Alright, I'm sure you all are wondering why I gathered you here. Truth is, we need to talk. You're stepping down? No! Listen! The reason I gathered you all here today was because people just think they can just post our music to YouTube without our consent. They think that they can just infringe on our intellectual properties and there wouldn't be any repercussions for it. And every time we take one channel down, another one just pops up like whack-a-mole. We need to get the memo across that we don't want people infringing on our intellectual properties. Huh? Oh, yeah, totally. You know, I hired you all specifically to help the company out with dilemmas such as this. And all it seems like you guys are doing is just sitting back and enjoying watching your boss have an episode. If you want a paycheck, you do what I hired you to do. I'm the only one in the room with you. Oh, that's your first write-up. Today's my first day. Oh, that's number 2. Okay, listen. The reason people post our music to YouTube is because we don't offer an official alternative for them to listen to our music on. What about in our games? That's not gonna cut it. People want to listen to our music from the comfort of their smart devices, not lug around a 7-inch tablet that barely fits in a pocket. So what are you suggesting we do? Well, this was quite a surprise. As many of you know, Nintendo is very hell-bent on preventing individuals from infringing on their intellectual properties, meaning you could probably expect fan-made projects with Nintendo IPs such as fan games and even their soundtracks on YouTube to be taken down before the sentence could even be finished. And I'm specifically looking at the soundtracks as well. Nintendo doesn't offer an alternative to listen to our favorite tracks on outside of the games themselves, and those stupid music player features in Smash Ultimate and Super Mario 3D All-Stars that nobody even cares about aren't good alternatives either. Like, who used those? And I'm sorry, I know the system is supposed to be portable, but I really don't feel that the Nintendo Switch lends itself well to being a solid portable music player, honestly. And really, the only other way Nintendo music can be listened to outside of games is to have them made available by fans on YouTube. Sure, many could argue that this is wrong because they didn't get the permission of Nintendo themselves to do this, but it is the only other option we have to listening to our favorite Nintendo music on while going about our daily routines, which makes it even more annoying when Nintendo takes that down. People have been clamoring for the company to just make a smart device app literally all about listening to their music on for years, but so much time has went on to the point where people just gave up. Until October 30th, 2024, when Nintendo did exactly what everyone's been wanting them to do. Make a legal and socially acceptable way to listen to Nintendo soundtracks on from the comfort of your smart device. Introducing Nintendo Music. Can you be more specific? It's essentially like Nintendo just looked at other music apps like iTunes and Spotify and just said, "F it, we could do that too." And this was great to finally have. However, like celebrity endorsements, nothing's free. Because why not? Because you will need to be a Nintendo Switch Online member in order to have access to this app, and in my opinion, that is kinda lame. I mean, sure, it does add value to Nintendo Switch Online, and I guess I could kind of understand why it is this way, but considering you will technically need to pay $20 a year just to access content that only costs a minute of your time at most to search up for on YouTube, it is pretty ridiculous and really should have just had you have a Nintendo account and that's it. But going into the app itself and spending a fair bit of time using it, it's actually not too bad. It loads fast, soundtracks are organized by games, franchises, your mood, and even characters. More are also added every so often, and it is pretty easy to find a specific track you're looking for. And it's not like one song from like Star Fox 64 gets added every 4 months like what you'd expect from games being added to NSO. It's the whole last soundtrack from the entire game. They even have soundtracks from a lot of Nintendo's more forgotten stuff like classic Wii channels, Nintendogs, and Tomodachi collection from the DS. Although I am kind of worried for the future of new additions to the lineup because we already see how long it takes for Nintendo to add arguably the best games from their classic systems to Switch Online, some of which even take years. So I am kind of worried that's going to carry over to this app as well, where a big majority of Nintendo games won't be added for like another 3 years or so, and that will certainly ruin a lot of my excitement for this. But on a more positive note, however, the app itself actually does have some nice quality of life features that I gotta give Nintendo some credit for, like the spoiler prevention feature. It hides the name of a song from a specific game so that it doesn't spoil the later parts if you're currently playing it or are going to play the final boss or something like that. There's also an extended playlist option to extend the length of select songs, with the different lengths being 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and 60 minutes, which is admittedly pretty cool. even if it would have been nice if all the songs had this option, but I digress. There's even the ability to download songs to your device for offline use so that you can listen to it on road trips or in places without Wi-Fi. And I don't know, these features are pretty neat. You can also star a specific song, save a specific playlist, create your own damn playlist for all I care, and also listen to it in the background while your phone screen is off or if you're on different apps, which are all typical features that you have on other platforms. Woo. Go on. And when you first pull up the tracks, you get a cool little screenshot of the scenario in the respective game where the music is played. And I quite like this as opposed to just showing the logo from the game it plays in. Now the problems with this app in my opinion comes from the admittedly small selection of games represented, and also the fact that none of the composers who created these songs are credited anywhere. Like cool, we know more songs are going to be added eventually, but how soon eventually? Because the list of soundtracks the app launched with was pretty pathetic. And really, if it takes like a year's time to add like, 10 other games, then that's gonna destroy whatever excitement for this app that I have left. These are digital files that literally take zero effort to put in. It's not like you're creating new songs from scratch and putting them on the app, and it's not like creating DLC for a game with new assets or anything like that. These are all pre-existing tracks, so really, there should be no reason to not have well over a good majority of Nintendo's catalog already covered by spring 2025. And the other issue I have, how come the composers are not credited? These are the people that make these tracks, and even the fan uploads of these tracks on YouTube have the composers and artists credited. So how come the official one doesn't? I mean, hopefully this gets addressed in a future update, but it is quite frustrating to see the fact that Nintendo really didn't feel the need to credit the people who made these tracks from the beginning. And it kind of highlights how it feels like this whole thing was just sort of cobbled together in a short period of time. The song selection is small, even with the knowledge that more tracks will be added eventually. It doesn't credit the original composers behind these songs, and how the hell did niche games like Tomodachi Collection and Nintendogs make it into the launch lineup? Mario Galaxy, Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, all of which make perfect sense to start the app off with. But who the hell at Nintendo thought that you can't have a Nintendo Music app without the soundtrack for a Japanese exclusive game that many people in North America aren't even familiar with launching alongside it? I mean, I'm happy that games like these are here despite nitpicking a little bit, and the music itself is really good overall. But you think that when starting off, Nintendo would really only go with tracks that people are more familiar with and add the more niche and forgotten stuff like this later on. And to be honest, I don't even consider this a flaw because it does add to the overall solid lineup of tracks that are currently here. I'm just saying that it feels like for a couple of the games that are here, despite again all being great songs, they sort of just drew names from a hat of which of the more forgotten titles could they include. But really, while the talk about the app itself did seem a bit short, that's all there really is to mention about it, honestly. And despite the fact that the library is still pretty small where more will certainly be added over time to give it more value, the app itself is pretty solid overall, and is in line with what you'd expect a modern day music listening app on your phone released in 2024 to be like. So that's nice. It's quick and responsive, there's some nice features, and it finally solves the biggest problem that Nintendo has with fans listening to their music online. Although, it's not even the app itself that's the big deal to me. Well, technically it is, but it's mainly the concept surrounding the app that's the bigger deal. We now have an official way to listen to our favorite Nintendo songs without Nintendo throwing a tantrum about people posting playlists of their songs to YouTube. It's nice to see that they finally understand that the reason people post their music online without their consent is because they don't provide an alternative for us to use already. I mean, I don't consider myself much of a music listener, honestly. I mean, on occasion I will, but most of the time, most of the Nintendo music I listen to comes from playing their games or watching fellow YouTubers' videos with Nintendo music in them. So the fact that they finally have an official alternative for us to listen to our favorite Nintendo music on is pretty neat, and I certainly want to see this app go the distance that Nintendo hopes. Even if it took too long to get there. What do you mean? And here we transition to another problem with the app, where it's cool to have and is easy to find what you want, but I just kind of feel like it's too little too late, honestly. Sure, this guarantees that you can listen to your favorite Nintendo songs without worrying that it's going to get taken down for copyright violations, and that you are getting the highest quality versions of these tracks as you can possibly get, but the fact that all these songs are all on YouTube and that there's even more than what this app has, and that you have to be a paid NSO subscriber kind of just takes a lot of the excitement out of it for me. Maybe if this was done roughly 7 to 8 years ago, it'd be a lot more impactful. But with the fact that we're probably still going to have to wait for more game soundtracks to be slowly added over time, kind of just takes a lot of the excitement from this app, to be quite honest. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy this exists, but what if you wanted this app but you weren't already an NSO subscriber and weren't really planning on being one? well, at that point, you're kind of screwed. Sure, it sucks that non-NSO subscribers would have to go the unofficial route if there's a soundtrack that they really want to listen to, and even then, Nintendo's probably going to double down even further to prevent people from uploading their music to YouTube with the app's existence now. So really, that leaves non-NSO subscribers with nothing if Nintendo doubled their efforts to shut down music channels featuring their content. And that essentially means that if you want to listen to Nintendo music, your only viable option is having to pay $20 a year for NSO just to listen to music that can already be listened to through other means, and has been for over a decade, and really just comes off as frustrating and honestly too late for me to really care at this point. Now, aside from all that, I'm sure for others there is value here, and it is a big deal really. And personally speaking, I will still use this app for the foreseeable future. But to be honest, I just did not see this as big of a deal as I would have wanted it to be. I mean, at the very least, it's easy to use, and despite starting off with a small selection of games represented, the library is most likely going to grow significantly, so if you are planning on using this app going forward, you will be getting a fair amount from it. And again, it is the official way of listening to Nintendo music outside of the actual games themselves, so I guess we can't really say that Nintendo doesn't provide us with official ways of listening to their music compared to others. And again, the app itself is good, despite a couple of problems like not crediting original composers, which hopefully will be addressed in a future update, and the small starting track selection also being minimal, which will 100% be addressed going forward. But other than that, this app will probably be exactly what you'd expect from a 2024 music platform. But when these tracks have already been made available online for far longer than this app's existence, it is hard to be that excited in my opinion. So my overall thoughts on the Nintendo Music app? Yeah, it's pretty good. Interesting. You know, when I first hired you all those years ago, that was this morning, I really thought that you weren't going to be of any help to this company whatsoever. But with an idea like that, you, my friend, just earned yourself a one-way ticket to becoming the vice president of Nintendo Corporations. Congratulations. Really? That's awesome. I'm so honored. I promise, boss, you won't regret it. I'm sure I won't. There's just one thing I want to ask, though. What's that? How much are we charging consumers to get such a luxury of listening to their favorite Nintendo music from the comfort of their smart devices? We're not. Since there's already free alternatives of listening to our music online, I thought it'd be best if we made it free for everyone. No subscription required. You're fired. And that's gonna wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed the video, then please consider subscribing and checking out my other videos on my channel where you'll find more videos like this one. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.